Hi, everybody, and welcome back to In the Kitchen.
Come to Hudson County Community College
for courses that transfer to four-year schools
and provide credentials for in-demand careers.
They're the newest technologies and facilities anywhere.
And caring professors and staff to help me succeed.
A great education and full campus life.
All for a fraction of the cost of most four-year schools.
Hudson County Community College.
Close to home.
Affordable.
High quality.
Life-changing.
Register now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to In the Kitchen. Today, we should have a good show. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So let's see what we can talk about. I thought it would be a good idea to speak about soul food. I think we all have our own definition of what soul food is and what it represents. What categories it comes in. Is there soul food or is there Southern food? Is there a difference between the two of them? Okay, so today I have my regular co-host, Jackie. Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
Welcome, she made it today. Thank you so much for being here, Jackie. And our guest today is David Ramsay. David, thank you for being
Howdy.
here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Okay. David, you're welcome anytime. We just love the energy that you had the last time you was here. So that's why we asked you to come back.
All right.
It was David. It was really good. and you know what? That's what we need. You know, that's what we need. We need energy that is good, energy that's positive.
Yes.
That is very, very, very important.
Yes.
And we will have it here today. All right, so let's start off. Jackie.
Yes.
What is your definition, if there is one, for soul food?
I think soul food, it speaks for itself. It comes from the soul. It doesn't matter. For me, at least, it doesn't matter if it's coming from the South, from the North, from here or there, whether it be overseas or just in America. It doesn't matter. It's really coming from the heart. It's also, I feel that soul food is like comfort food also, you know what I mean? So it's the same meaning, at least for me.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And David, what about you? What do you consider soul food?
Well, Jackie stole my answer. right at the end.
Right at the end, right?
Right at the end, I was like, don't say it. She said comfort food. And now I have nothing to no.
You took the words right out of your mouth.
Snatched it smooth out. I concur. I definitely agree with the assessment of, it's food that comes from the heart. It's definitely comfort foods. I mean, in the classic sense, of course, I've grown up hearing about soul food, and I really, didn't really get into soul food until really Thanksgiving. And I used to have some friends, my sister's friend, my eldest sister's friend. There was an American family that we used to go, you go house hop for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
And this was one of my favorite houses to go to because they were American, and there were so many things there that we didn't have at home, and prepared differently.
Dishes, the type of dishes.
Types of dishes that we didn't have at home and prepared differently, and so it was an experience, and that was like my first real introduction to what would classically be soul food, which is kind of food from the American South, the collard greens, the cornbread, smothered turkey wings, and that kind of stuff. They made the ham with the pineapples and the glaze and and that would set me off, so that was my, that's what I think of when I think of soul food. I think of those Thanksgivings with the families, different, a little bit of different stuff. We had our stuff, but that's.
Yeah.
What was the difference? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
But what were the differences? Because you did say that there were some things that were made differently, but it was the same thing that was made.
Well, the preparation. Both my parents are hardcore Jamaicans.
All right.
Oh.
So our we got macaroni and cheese, but it's our macaroni and cheese prepared differently. It's not the same. It's like that macaroni. I had like macaroni pie.
Yeah.
Macaroni pie. Yes.
Right? So
my neighbor next door, she said to me, "Oh, Renee, I have something for you." And she said, "I have macaroni pie." Then when I looked at it, I said, "Wait a minute. That is baked macaroni, but like you're saying, David, it is called pie."
Yeah.
You put egg, when you make it, you put egg in it as a binder.
Yeah.
It's definitely not as cheesy.
No.
As American macaroni and cheese is like cheese.
See,
but this is
that.
like,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. You got it. There's cheese.
Really excited.
There's cheese in and cheese on. But
this is why when I was a kid, seriously growing up, I swore we were like, we weren't just Southern or coming from a Southern background. I swore we were coming from a Caribbean background because my father, that's how he cooked. And as I got older, come to find out, he comes from a Geechee background, Gullah Geechee background.
I've heard the word, Geechee.
Yeah, Gullah
That's a style of cooking, right?
No, not even the style of cooking. It's the people. It's the people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the way they cook is pretty much the same way Caribbeans cook. So I used to be like, well, all this time I thought we were like from Jamaica. My parents, not our parents, but like our lineage was from Jamaica. But they come to find out it's very similar. And a lot of the way we, ways we cook, it was just like, oh snap, we do that. We do that too. And we do that too, like, So when I learned about Gullah Geechee folk and their lifestyle and the way they do things, I was like, wow, that is so very similar to a lot of the way, because I have friends of all walks of life, but a lot of my Caribbean friends, they were like shocked that I knew what certain things were, but just different. They were named differently. Yeah. They're like, Jackie, where you from? Where your people from? I'm like, I'm here. Like, what?
I didn't know you knew about that.
Yeah, they would say I had an accent. I'm like, I'm just from Brooklyn. And they were like, no, there's something else. There's something else there. So, yeah, the food. When you say macaroni, was it mac and cheese pie?
Macaroni
that's
pie.
Exactly how my father made it.
But when I looked at it, like I mentioned, when I looked at it, it looked like she had it in a glass dish. And I looked at, I said, oh, she used ziti. She didn't use elbow macaroni. Am
Yeah,
I correct, David? Is that how that's what it's used?
yeah, you'll find that. You'll find that often, definitely.
Yeah. And then I said, well, okay, I'm just gonna cut this.
It's good.
I mean, it was very good, but I'm sure it, like you were saying, it's the same thing. It's just the way it is prepared that makes a difference, you know? David, I'm sorry we interrupted. What were you saying now?
I apologize.
No. Listen, I got this. First of all, I have the attention span of a fly. So don't try to come back. It's gone. It's
Okay, well, Jackie,
whatever. Moving right along.
Jackie, we know not to interrupt him when he's speaking.
Oh God.
No, but I think soul food can be any type of food. So we have, our food has been named soul food, I guess because it's fixed from the South, or the way it's cooked and the time that it's taken to prepare and where it's coming from, which is the heart, which is the soul. However, I watch a lot of shows, cooking shows, and I forget what area it was from, but they considered their food soul food because how it was fixed. Okay. And then you have the soul food, and then you have the Southern food, which is, what is the difference between soul food and Southern food? Does anybody know?
Fatback chitlins.
Oh. but that fatback and chitlins was cooked here also.
Yes, but it's like the Southern, it's just like, it's more of like, I think, this is just me, a make do. What you don't have, you make do. Yeah. And when you make do, you put your foot in it, and people just start to embrace that, like, yeah, honey, like, down home, you know. Oh God, just thinking about
well, I saw that on a show I was recently watching. I think it was yesterday, and they were talking. They showed a picture of African Americans at a restaurant. They were talking about Horn and Hardrock, the machine that you put the coin in and you get food out. Then they showed African Americans sitting in a restaurant because it was, segregation and all that. You couldn't eat. And the person narrating the show said, "This is how African Americans ate. Whatever year that's, let's say 1940s. This is how they ate, and the food that they ate was." They took, like you just said, they took whatever they had and they brought it together, and it was from their soul because that's all they had. They didn't have anything else. So they took that, as we know, lobster. People thought that today lobster costs an arm and a leg, but who was lobster fed to years ago? You know, right?
Of course.
It was poor food. Lobster was garbage.
Yep. Yes. Caviar.
It was like the roach of the bottom of the sea.
Yep.
So they fed all of that lobster to the slaves until they realized, wait a minute.
But those slaves can cook.
Yeah. And they felt that this is good food.
Yep.
This is good food. So don't give them no more lobster. Because they were enjoying it.
Come to Hudson County Community College
for courses that transfer to four-year schools
and provide credentials for in-demand careers.
They're the newest technologies and facilities anywhere.
And caring professors and staff to help me succeed.
A great education and full campus life.
All for a fraction of the cost of most four-year schools.
Hudson County Community College.
Close to home.
Affordable.
High quality.
Life-changing.
Register now.
So, it depends on where the food has come from and how it is fixed and how much we put into the food to make it either soul food or, on the show, they said American food. Jackie, did you mention that earlier? You said something about American food? It's American food? Soul food.
It doesn't, to me, I don't think it's just American. Like, you go to Spain,
Mhm.
I guess their core meal,
Mhm.
if it's made with love, that's soul food. Anybody can. I really feel that anybody can cook, but if you taste their food, right, someone's food, and it makes you go, oh God, it just makes you stop for a minute and go,
And think.
oh God, that to me is like, that's soul food. Doesn't matter. It could be, okay, rice and peas. Anybody can make rice and peas, right? But if you eat the rice and peas from someone and you go, good God, that's so good. That to me is soulful.
Yeah.
Anybody can make it, but when someone makes it, it's just like.
And and you see that smile on their face.
Yes.
And
the
then
warmth
they
comes
sit
to
back
your
and they
body.
say, I am so full, I feel like taking a nap. Then you got to. There's a word that we call that, but I won't mention. This is the family show. But it's the same thing with food that comes, David, it's the same thing with food that comes from the islands, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the moniker of soul food, I think it's appropriately named for for what I think it is, for my interpretation, as far as and just as far as that American classic. I mean, everybody's food that's cooked with love is gonna, I think you can more attribute like a comfort food or homey, something that will signify that soul food. But I really feel like that moniker for this American vein of food is appropriate, and in as much as I like to share, I'm a sharing person. I don't think that we should share this one. I think it's a little bit of a misappropriation if you share, if you water it down and say, everybody can join in on soul food. I mean, you can have your everybody has an interpretation of the dish, but is it soul food when it's not prepared, in this manner, or if the root is not coming from this manner? I just I'm a little bit of a purist when it comes to it. I appreciate food from every culture.
Yes.
But that moniker, I think it belongs to the American South. I think it belongs to the descendants of the slave.
Right.
Yeah. And I just looked up the word soul food definition from Oxford. And they have it very simple, which we already used a couple of the words. They said traditional Southern African American food.
Okay.
That's their definition of it. But the question is, did it start in the South and it was brought here? People down South, I'm sure they cook their collard greens way different. They use what we was talking about before, fat back in it, and lard and all that kind of stuff. Our food has changed over the years. We have changed the recipes and make it more to what our liking. So are we taking away from the origins of soul food?
I don't think so.
And they're saying it's African American. Now, did some of this food that is classified, we call soul food, parts of it come from Africa?
I think it came from here and Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But we're this is not to sound like I'm trying to, like a separatist. But we're innovators. This is what we've done. This is our history.
Yes.
So we may make something, but we start to, in our minds, it's like start to perfect it every time we do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes we end up creating something else out of that. So,
because it changes, recipes changes from generation to generation. to generation.
Just like life, it's almost like an evolving.
Yeah.
You know, we evolve.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And David, I'm sure.
At one stage.
Yeah, and David, I'm sure it's the same. That food come from the islands. It's cooked one way in the islands, but when it came here, people have taken that same recipe and changed it about 10 times.
You've gotta adapt to what your surroundings are, and then basically that's what happened to a lot of the dishes when it came down to it. There were things that were brought over from Africa with the slaves because the people who brought them over knew that they had to feed them, and they knew they didn't know what to feed them, so they negotiated that, and they brought seeds and they brought stuff over.
Oh, sure.
Rice is rice is African.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okra.
Sorry to interrupt, but when I learned that okra was from I was like, what? I thought okra was from the island. I mean, it was part of, you know what I'm saying?
So did I. I didn't even know that they ate okra like that in the South until I got much older. But then, the word okra and gumbo are synonymous.
Yeah.
So the dish gumbo, which is one of the most southern things that you can have, gumbo literally means okra.
Yep.
Ah, okay.
It's a translation of the word.
Yeah, because if you don't have the okra, you don't have gumbo.
Right, that's right.
You don't.
And speaking of rice, a lot of the slaves, when they were brought over, I guess knowing that they were enslaved over in Africa as well, they took a lot of the rice and put it in their hair. They hid it in their hair.
Yeah.
Came over, and I don't know. See, our people is something else, man.
Wow.
I wish we all knew what we possess, but when they came over, that's how they planted here. A lot of people think that rice is from
David,
China.
You knew this, David?
Yeah.
I didn't.
You know what? You know what is a great documentary to watch?
Give me 1 sec. Go ahead.
It's called High on the Hog.
I've seen it.
Yes, we've talked about it. I didn't get a chance to see it yet.
There's a book and then there's this documentary. It's really short.
That High on the Hog, I watched it twice just to really understand it. I think I have to watch it a couple of more times because it's really heavy duty in the beginning when the women are all in the white and they're dancing and they're saying "help me" or something like when they were.
The Yoruba.
I think everybody needs to watch High on the Hog.
It's really, really well done, and you learn a lot. You learn a lot there, and then they talk about the rice, and you think that cotton, you think that, right? Yeah. You see, people think that cotton was the greatest thing that built the American economy, but rice.
Yep.
And sugar as well. Rice and sugar as
and
well
corn.
were the things that built the economy, and those are all built on.
Yes. And also corn.
Yes.
Corn is used for thousands of things. And look who's here. We talk about food.
Who's the cutie club?
He heard us talking about food. He said, "I'm hungry."
Yeah, he wants to see. He's very selfish. He's like, "Who are you talking to?" Like, I'm over here talking. And he does this when I'm recording. He does this when I'm recording the show too. Like, I'm talking to the camera, and then he's like, "Why you're not talking to me? What's going on here?" So he's always, he always wants to interject himself into the conversation because he's like, "Who are you talking to?"
I don't see nobody standing there. But anyway, that's really cute. But anyway, Decky, but I didn't know. This is really interesting, and I'm sure people are going to find it also, that they were taking the rice and putting it in their hair.
Yep.
Yeah,
I learned this from there's a tribal priestess, Queen Quet from the Gullah Geechee tribe.
Mhm.
And she talked a lot about that. I learned this very young. When my grandfather had passed, and we went for his funeral. After his funeral, and I was on my mother's side, we went to my father's family reunion. Although it was a somber situation when we went to the family reunion, this woman, it was beautiful. I'm so glad that they did this. They invited her to talk, give kind of a little history lesson about Gullah Geechee folk. And I had never heard of that before. And when she spoke, it was just like, it got me.
Wow.
And she was giving out a cassette and information about Gullah Geechee people. She wanted us to educate ourselves. And you know what? I said, yeah, I'm going to get this. I went and I spoke with her a little bit, and when she was educating us on how, certain things that, that they had, our ancestors had to do in order to survive over here, was that either in the dreads or even the braided styles, they hid one by one. I don't know how they did this, but in the hair, and no one suspected a thing. And I never thought of that. Like, you hid rice in the hair.
Imagine
That's survival.
Yeah, imagine other things that, like beans.
Yes,
they put it there to grow, so they will have something to eat.
Yes, while they're on the slave ships.
Yes.
Yeah, this reminds me of, that reminds me of my, growing up. It's like you could be going out to a dinner party. My grandmother would be like, you better eat before you leave the house.
Oh, yes.
Because you don't know what you're going to meet when you reach over there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't go
Everything could be done.
Yeah,
or everything could be poisoned.
Yep.
Yeah. My grandmother used to say the same thing. Actually, she used to tell us, don't go out with, I'm gonna put it like she said it. She said, don't go out with dirty underwear on, because you never know if you're gonna land up in a hospital.
In a hospital, yeah.
I mean, that's what she told me.
Oh, not just dirty underwear. Your underwear.
I know. This is a family show.
Dirty, holy, or matter of fact, you gotta make sure you have some.
That's it.
So make sure you have some as well, because you never know.
Yeah.
Where you would end up, but it speaks to the preparedness.
Yeah, and going back, I'm sure there's, and now that you mentioned about the rice, and I am definitely going to look that up. But like I said, there are probably beans and all different types of herbs and stuff that they use. I was told that jerk seasoning, this is what I was told. Jerk seasoning came from the islands, and these people took all these different types of herbs and put it together in order to get this seasoning that they call jerk. Now, in the show that I watched, they showed this guy, he was in this room, and it was fire was going, and they had this wood laying. I forget the name of the type of wood.
Pimento.
Huh?
Pimento.
And they was taking the chicken, it was, butterfly, and they was putting it on top. Seasoned. Mm-hmm. So someone said to the guy, he says, because the guy was, moving the sticks around, and turning it. So they said to the guy, what are you doing? And the guy said, I'm jerking the chicken. And that's how I learned where the name jerk chicken came from. Because he was taking, because it's all these sticks, and he's jerking it back and forth.
Right.
There's a restaurant, I forget what part of the island, and they have the Scotch bonnet, and I think this restaurant is named after the Scotch bonnet.
Scotchies. It's called Scotchies.
Yeah. That's what I learned about jerk chicken was, and I passed it on to people. I know, he's jerking the stick, and they call it jerk chicken.
Yeah, that part I never heard. I never heard that one. I never really knew the origin of the word. You know, the jerk part. It's just
Oh, wow.
it is what it is. I know that the technique itself came from a preservation. Like okay, you know how they have jerky,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the draw.
right?
Yeah,
So along the same lines, the technique of smoking this meat, and they would smoke it underground in a pit,
Right.
like how they do like the Hawaiian,
Hawaiians.
the luau thing.
yeah.
So they did it like this because they couldn't have these fires and smoke pluming,
Yeah.
because these were the maroons that were escaped slaves and people who were not enslaved, and they were basically on the lam. So they would do this in order to preserve the meat
Right.
and in order to be kind of undetectable.
So
Right.
it can't be found.
Right. So because you don't have this smoke giving
Yeah.
away your position,
Yeah,
everything is under the ground,
yeah. And
and then this meat lasts longer.
I just watched the other day. They were talking about how food, many years ago, there was no such thing as refrigeration. This show was about Heinz, about Post cereal, about Kellogg. This whole thing I was watching, and for Heinz ketchup. So in this documentary, they said that during those times, they had no refrigeration. I guess they used salt, to preserve the food. But they had this sauce, and they showed that these people, the meat was raw. So they was using the ketchup to cover up the flavor of the food because it was bad. Because there's no refrigeration now. Imagine, no refrigeration. And they're getting the beef and all of that. So the ketchup covered up the bad taste of the meat.
Wow.
Now, that's weird. But it was a story about Heinz and Kellogg's and how they fought and, to take over the name, et cetera, et cetera.
So I think that's a perfect segue to bring us full circle to the soul, to bring back the notion of the soul food is number one, eating food, the tradition of getting food that, we talk about the high on the hog concept.
Yeah.
People who have the money and people who have the power are living high on the hog. You're getting the best parts, and we're getting the awful.
Yeah.
Right.
And the awful is awful, right?
Yes.
And in order to make that awful, in order to make those unused, unwanted parts palatable and edible and nutritious, this is where this soul food came in. You put everything you had into it in order to make the food stretch, in order to make the food delicious.
Yes.
And you have all of these traditions of, okay, chitlins.
Yes.
Who would think to eat this part? That's straight garbage. But we found a way to make that happen. Pig feet, oxtail. Can't even buy an oxtail now to save my life. There ain't nobody want oxtail before. That's poor people food.
Yes.
Yeah. But buy it now, it costs you an arm and a leg to get some oxtail.
So, this is how the soul gets into the food, I believe, is, because they had to do so much to prepare this food.
Yeah, to make it work.
And all of these seasonings and stuff, I actually have a theory about this tendency that we have to highly season food, which is tasty and delicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the evolution of food, and the same we said, you're cooking with the lard and the fat back and the pork and this, and then it evolves into, I got a friend of mine who his family's from North Carolina, and his mom went down there, at some point, and I was like, tell your mom to bring back some chopped barbecue. And she couldn't barely find chopped barbecue, like regular pork chopped barbecue, because a lot of people in the American South are not eating pork anymore.
A lot of people. I agree.
So
I haven't
turkey.
I haven't ate pork in like 30 or 40 years. No pork. I'll cook it. And the same with beef. I don't eat beef. I will cook it. It'll be good, but I won't eat it. But you are right, David.
There's an evolution there, that Jackie talked about, as we become more health conscious, as we become more, connected with, what we put into our body and the effects that it has, on us as a whole. We say, okay, well, I say, well, what's one of the number one things that kill us is hypertension, diabetes, and all of this comes from excess, overworking your organs. Like, you put all of this seasoning in your food, but then where's your
body got to digest it?
What's your blood pressure like? In the name of this food tastes good.
Yep.
Does it? Or do you just like to eat seasoning?
Yeah.
You know?
You don't want to overdo it. Like salt, I don't cook with salt. And if I do, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. Because there are other ways to season the food. Some people say, I've seen some shows, cooking shows, and Jack, I do not drop names, but they be taking all the salt and they be putting it in, and then they put it in the first part, and then the food is cooking. Then they have another part. Oh, we need salt, and they add salt to that.
Well, what about when you mentioned, Dave, about the health conscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you an example. I decided to go vegan or semi-vegan.
Semi-vegan.
For a few months, and then started to feel a little different, like more anxious. And so when I went to my doctor was like, why is your blood pressure so high? Oh. I said, I'm experiencing a little bit of stress at work. She's like, no. Then she asked me, she says, what are you eating? I said, I did change my diet. I don't eat meat. I don't, I've been eating, vegan or vegetarian. She says, what kind of vegan? I was like, mostly frozen, because I don't get a chance to cook as often as I'd like to, because that's my job, that's my profession.
Frozen?
Yeah. So she said, I now know what it is. It's the sodium.
Yes.
She says there are other ways to preserve food, but a lot of these places, they preserve even vegan food with a lot of salt. And you know what? I usually look at the back where they have the ingredients and stuff like that, but I really didn't look for the sodium in vegan food. My gosh, when I came home, after hearing my results or my numbers of high blood pressure, I was like, what's going on here? I went and looked, like, oh my gosh, 470, 510, 1,070. I was like, my doctor, she wanted to make sure everything, it was coming down. Yeah. So she said, 10 days, don't touch any vegan food. Don't touch any of the vegan food that you were eating before. Don't get me wrong, I was eating salads and stuff like that outside of the frozen, but I still ate my frozen. So I was having breakfast, lunch, and dinner like that, with my salads or whatever. Anyway, after the 10 days, she said, okay, your numbers went down, which is good. She says, I'm really surprised, because when I did blood work, she says, I'm really surprised, because I thought I was going to see, she says, I hope you don't take any offense, but I thought I was going to see pre-diabetes or diabetic results in your blood work. And she says, your liver and kidneys, perfect, everything, sugar levels, everything was great. She says the only issue you're having is the high blood pressure. Even though it's coming down now, it's the high blood pressure. And I've never had that issue before. So she says, don't eat the plant-based, the frozen plant-based for a month. I was like, oh God, really? She said, don't. And I haven't.
Yeah.
I started seeing it go down and down and down. That stuff can kill you too.
But
So
did you know, we go and buy a chicken, right?
Yeah.
Get it fresh, it's not frozen.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the label, we take it home and cook it.
Yep.
Does anybody ever turn it over and look at the back?
Oh yeah. Sodium. That's how they preserve it. That's how they're preserving all this food. Like, I never remembered that as a kid. I don't remember that as a kid having sodium on raw chicken or even raw beef. Like, what the heck is going on?
Yes.
It's
And
killing us.
then we put it together because we're fixing our soul food, and we need to put some more salt, and not realizing that there's salt on that chicken. That's why the chicken look as good as it does. And then they inject the chicken breast
With hormones, all kinds of nonsense.
With liquid to make. Have you ever did a chicken and then you see the breast is all plumpy?
Yep.
And then after you take it out, all this water comes out of it because they inject it into the breast to make
Let's go back further. When they're farming them, I call it factory farming, because they're bunched up in these places.
Like Food Inc. You saw the movie.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Inc.
Look at What the Health. Check that that documentary. Oh my gosh, that's what led me to go into veganism.
What's the name of it so people watching this will know?
What the Health.
That will ruin food for you.
It will.
If you're not strong. What the Health? It's called What the Health. That will ruin food for you.
You know what?
The
same with Food Inc.
Yes.
Yeah. I watched it, but I'm too stubborn.
Yeah.
And my son watched it, and he wouldn't eat meat anymore.
But Food Inc. or What the Health?
What the Health? That was it. That was it.
It got, when I watched it, it really got me. It was like, oh my gosh, we can get diabetes and all these other health issues from straight up meat instead of just the carbs. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And that really, it freaked me out, which led me to go, you know what, let me try this for 2 weeks. And it led me to a couple of months. Yeah. But then I quickly learned that my blood pressure was coming up because of the
preservatives and everything else.
Yeah. And the Beyond Burgers and the Beyond.
Oh no, you can't eat that. That's just a science practice.
That you know what I'm saying? But before we run out of time.
Oh yes.
Yeah, before we run out of time, let's touch on the subject of, I guess we can call it a soul food Thanksgiving.
Oh Lord.
David, I'm gonna let you lead this.
A soul food Thanksgiving.
Should we call it a soul food Thanksgiving, or we just call it Thanksgiving?
I don't know. Like, that's what I like. Like, for me, that's what I like. I mean, there's always gonna be for me, like, some kind of rice and peas or something. There's gonna be stuff that's prepared in a Caribbean or Latino way. My wife is Dominican. Her family's Dominican, and my family's Jamaican. And we meet in the middle because there's other things that we especially like. So for our table, it's turkey. It's gonna be turkey. It's gonna be candied yams with the marshmallows and the whole nine. We're doing like asparagus and Brussels sprouts and we pray. I pretty much kind of not insisted that we go in this this direction, because that's the stuff that I like. I could eat arroz con pollo 24 hours a day, or oxtail or jerk chicken, all the time. But for Thanksgiving, I just like these foods. I like the stuffing, and I like like this stuff. So in other words, it's a little bit different.
Excuse me. So in other words, we agree that it's not necessarily a soul food Thanksgiving, but like we said earlier, it's an American
Traditional.
traditional
It's
American.
traditional.
hmm So are we saying that there's no such thing, or some people do, is there such a thing as a soul food Thanksgiving? Does that exist? Because some of the food for Thanksgiving might be served during the year. You know, like the collard greens could be collard greens with some mustard greens mixed in with it, you know, all that, the potato salad, all that kind of, look at Jackie, all that kind of
Making me hungry.
all of that kind of stuff can be served during the year. But we do agree that it's not necessarily a soulful Thanksgiving, but American Thanksgiving with all the trimmings.
All the trimmings. I think, for Thanksgiving you show off.
Oh yeah.
You get extra for Thanksgiving. You get a little fancier. You put your foot and your ankle in for Thanksgiving. You know how it is.
When you say, David, you say you put your foot in. So I was telling Lalo, the videographer, about food, and he's from Mexico. So I said, yeah, we put our foot in. He goes, what are you talking about?
You put your foot in this?
I said, it's a figure of speech. That means you really put your heart into cooking that dish.
Mm.
You really, really put a lot into it. And then Thanksgiving, the auntie's coming over and she then bringing her dish, and the cousin coming over he haven't seen you since last Thanksgiving, and everybody's bringing these. It's almost like it's a potluck.
Yeah.
Sure.
The base is already there, the foundation is there, but they're bringing the apple pie, the pumpkin pie, the potato salad, more collard greens, and of course somebody's gonna bring that pork roast.
Well, see, that was the thought. The thought was an offering.
Yes.
And so then you said the potluck. I think that's what it was originally supposed to be, a potluck. Then it turned into where everybody started doing it. So it became Thanksgiving or even Christmas dinner, So having a soulful Thanksgiving, I believe that exists, because when you're a person who doesn't really cook as often as you like to, but you know how to cook, and then Thanksgiving rolls down, of course, there's no stepping out of that one. You are going to cook for that. You're preparing for that.
Yeah.
And
special day. That's special.
Yeah, you're gonna put your foot in it. You doggone right.
So to speak.
Yes.
Put your foot in it. Yeah. So David, let me ask you a question before I think we got about 5 more minutes or so. In the islands, is Thanksgiving celebrated the same as here? Because I know in Laurel's from Mexico, and it's celebrated a little different because people have different ways of celebrating Thanksgiving. Like some of the holidays don't even fall on the holiday that we have,
Right.
and the celebration is done different. So in the islands, it's the same.
You don't have Thanksgiving.
Huh?
You don't have Thanksgiving.
You don't have Thanksgiving? No?
Remember, that's an American institution.
Yeah,
Oh.
That's one of the things from the American history book.
that's true.
It's the fiction of
Get it together to have a great.
You better say that. You better say that. Right, he's right.
Shout out to everybody who's supporting CRT initiatives. My headphones work.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I had to change my audio to my computer because my.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't have Thanksgiving.
Okay, I'm asking because I
We
didn't know.
celebrate Thanksgiving here, and there's definitely households that don't do it because they're not dealing with this Yankee stuff.
Yeah.
They won't do it like, first generation people who come here, they'll be like, what is a Thanksgiving? They don't know.
They don't know.
So it's just another day.
Yeah.
And then you get children. What happens is you get children, and the children go to school and they're off, and then it's a thing, and then part of your assimilation is celebrating the American holidays.
Yeah. And like you said, Thanksgiving isn't celebrated. And then you mentioned the children, they're off from school. Imagine those kids who go back to school and they say, oh, what you do for Thanksgiving? And the child said, we don't have Thanksgiving.
Right.
So that child can feel left out.
Isolated.
Or feel bad. Oh, you didn't have Thanksgiving. You know how kids could be mean. You see what I'm saying? They could be mean.
I mean, it happens. Part of the American melting pot is is assimilation, and when you're in Rome.
Do what the Romans do.
The Romans do.
That happens, and that's how we came to celebrate Thanksgiving here. And then, we had turkey. That was like, you gotta have turkey. But then a lot of the, all of the other preparations of stuff when I was growing up would be more Caribbean stuff. And we would have roast beef, and we would have lamb.
See? Very similar.
There's a dish.
We wouldn't have collard green. I never seen a Brussels sprout until I was a fully realized adult.
And I never liked them anyway.
They were good. They're done well.
Now I've learned to like them. Yeah.
I never ate asparagus at home. Never, They didn't sell that in the supermarkets by me. They didn't sell Brussels sprouts in supermarkets by me. We had very directed supermarkets. That go wrong with the neighborhood. So
yeah. I've watched some of the shows, and I've seen some of the herbs and the produce, and I look at them and I say, oh, I know that's good because it's grown right there compared to ours. It's grown, it's shipped to us, et cetera, and then it takes like forever. Like strawberries, I think I mentioned, I've got some strawberries from Stop and Shop. You cut it open, inside is white. My sponsor, Allstead Farms, we went to the farm up in Chester, New Jersey. He said, oh, the strawberries are ready. And when he said, taste it. And when we bit into it and we looked at it, it was red on the inside. It was not that white vein that looked like, Jackie, you okay?
They had the time to ripen.
The strawberry was red on the inside. Like I picked up for my jam that I'm getting ready to sell, I picked up some fresh ginger.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. And they grow the ginger.
Oh, wow.
So I know when I make my next batch, it's going to be like exploding with it.
Oh, wow.
It's just strange how the food have changed, evolved over the years. But like I mentioned, that show, The Great Soul Food Cook-Off, you get a chance to watch that, and those who are watching, watch it. It's African-American chefs, and they're all competing against each other. And it's a lot of fun. They was laughing and giggling, etc. And also, Family Dinner, the Smallwood family is on the Discovery. Andrew Zimmer. That show, he has 4 different families, but watch the Smallwood family. They are really into the cooking outdoors, and they put the drum and they da-da-da-da. But before we go, we always leave with our final word. I'll start with you, Jackie. what would be your final word before we leave the air?
Educate yourself on the food that you eat.
Yes. There you go. There you
That's
go.
it. You already heard my story about the high blood pressure thing. That's going down. I'm not having that go back up. I'm educating myself on it. I can't live like that.
Yeah.
Educate yourself.
Certain people really want
And David?
Happy Thanksgiving, first of all, everybody. Cook your heart and your soul out. Put your foot in it. Put your foot in it. Let me do this before you get a phone call. Or wash your foot first, at least.
People on Comcast, they're gonna be, what is he talking about?
But he said to put the foot in it.
We're not talking about grapes.
But yeah,
But that's okay too.
You know, have a soulful day. Have a soulful Thanksgiving. I mean, enjoy what we're giving thanks for. We ain't talking about pilgrims no more. We're really, we don't talk about that.
No.
During our Thanksgiving, it's not a really, people say, "Oh, how could you still celebrate that?" But we give thanks, and we go around the table and we say what we're thankful for, and pilgrims don't come up.
No.
We're not celebrating that tradition. We're thankful for everything that we have, and we're thankful for the opportunities to get together and for the opportunity to eat.
And it doesn't take Thanksgiving to be thankful.
No, but
This moment.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You got to earmark these occasions, and when you get together with your family, when you get together with your friends, you make it special.
Yeah. And I would like to say, I'm thankful for everything. I'm thankful for you guys taking the time out, coming here every 2 weeks to sit down and talk about food and recipes, which is good because there are people out there who are watching. They might not be watching it right now, but they'll go to the website and they watch it and they're being educated.
Right.
And it's nice that it's coming from us as well as the chefs out there. There's a lot of chefs out there, but we are taking the time to break it down, opposed to competing against each other.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? We're taking the time, and that's what Sunday Brunch is all about. And I want to thank both of you, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad that you're watching. We do Sunday Brunch every other Sunday on Facebook Live. We have guests sometimes. Sometimes we just take the time for us to get a chance to talk about what's on our mind, which is a good thing. We have two other guests, Chef Tara, she couldn't make it today, and Anthony Spirito. He couldn't make it today because he's always traveling. He'll come back and tell us about food. And I want to thank you guys again so much, and I really appreciate you being here today.
No problem, man. It was a great time.
David, we're going to see you. David, we're going to see you again. You're on.
All right.
Okay. All right. Speak to you.
Bye,
Happy
guys.
holidays. Happy holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Holiday.
To you.